Welcome, viewers, back to Heart of the Machine. This is Season 2, and we have just entered what I think is Chapter 2. It's interesting to note that we are now at Intelligence Class 4, so we jumped straight into Intelligence Class 4, which is a carryover from previous timeline. Currently, the only building we have is our stealth network source, the root of our network within the city. A very poor replacement for a full tower, but it will have to do. We're going to have to start thinking about elemental slurry, something we haven't really thought about in a long time, although we did net 5.8 million this turn. We also have plenty of micro builders. I'm not sure where those incomes are coming from because our tower isn't making them. We have a whole lot of resources, so it looks like our resources are propagating between timelines, although not wealth, just some of our basic things. None of our life forms. We do retain our strategic resources. Oops, and that, I didn't mean to pop us back here, but our input-output, the only thing we have in input-output right now is the electricity that we're making from the stealth network source, which is all surplus? On the contemplation radar, we have a pollinator's contemplation, which is needed for uplifted minority goal. Taking a look at our timeline goals. Have we done uplifted minority? We did unexpected, yes, that was the raccoon uplift, so this would lead to raccoon uplift in hard mode for 3 extra points. Those skull points are daring, which are extra challenging paths to goals in timelines. We'll do some daring goals, I suppose. But pollinators is probably not our primary target. We also have observe spaceport, which can alter the goal slice of inferno, which we've never run into. There's also slum cats. I'm gonna send a nickelbot over there. Can alter the goal uplifted minority. We've done that before. We've done this before. I don't know how we could have chosen this in 2 other timelines. Unless this is also talking about the demo, maybe? Anyhow, we also have intrusive thoughts. You're not sure why randomly murdering civilians gives you a rush of mental energy. You're not sure you want to know. So this was chosen as a side exploration in another timeline. This is to reroute intrusive thoughts in a different direction, which will remove our ability to murder in cold blood, but increase our capacity of 18 centimeter spiders and network attendance. So that's a decent shift to, so you can murder humans to regain some mental energy, or you can go do this contemplation and instead get some basic robot resources. Over here we have our decoy tower, which does appear to have its own network range, so it's possible we'll be able to build stuff over here. For now, we want to do our initial construction, which is slurry spiders, micro builders, a storage bunker, and some large wind generators. Let's start with the micro builders and the slurry spiders. We're also going to want to figure out how to increase our forces. We do have room for 48 androids, so we're going to build a bunch of techs. We're going to get this going fast with techs. Techs are going to take us 1 mental energy each. But we are missing neuroweave, so our first goal is to figure out how to get neuroweave. Despite what this says, neuroweave is really target number 1. A neuroweave factory requires 1,000 electricity. We're making 1444, so that should be no problem. It also requires 1,000 elemental slurry. We're starting off with a ton of elemental slurry. So it might make sense to build one of these right away. In fact, this seems like a core thing that we can't live without, so I am going to start with a NeuroWeave factory. We'll put it down right next to our base. Maybe we'll stick it over here where our tech unit already is. And the tech is going to turn that on if he can. We're going to turn it on as close as we can, I guess. We're almost out of moves for this turn, so that should be done next turn, but it won't be done this turn. Somehow that did make our surplus electricity go up, which is confusing. The other things we want to build right away are slurry spiders and micro builders. Figuring out how these are organized, it might be smart to figure this out. They don't seem to be in any of these sub-menus. Stealth storage bunkers, stealth large wind generators. Interesting. So our new buildings are stealth. Slurry. How do we find slurry easily? I suppose it's going to be... It's not mining. Construction? Yes. Okay, stealth, microbuilder, minifabs, and slurry spiders. Slurry spiders use 5cm spiders. I'm pretty sure we never figured out anything else to use those for. Stealth microbuilders are going to use microforge. Likewise, there's nothing else that uses microforge robotics, so those are pretty straightforward. Mind Annex, we do have the ability to make coprocessors right away. Although, to do that, we're going to need compute time. So that's another target to aim for. Let's do the slurry spiders right away because these are super cheap. And they will bump up our mental energy, or not our mental energy, our slurry output right away. Leading us to not worry about this. We're going to drop some slurry spiders over here by these slum-looking buildings. In fact, it looks like we might be able to destroy buildings by dropping them close. Maybe not. There we go. Yeah. 4 slurry spiders. That's as many as we have robotics for. The other one was microforge. We do want to remember how to make the advanced microforges as soon as possible, but for now we will use these low output ones. Microforges use existing buildings, so we will drop these. Suggesting 3, no reason not to make them all right away. Might as well... we are immediately running into power problems, which is something we never really ran into in Timeline 1 because the power really came first. Power is going to come from wind engines. We can make 2 of these right away. These are stealth power plants and they're going to use existing buildings, so we're going to put those nearby. I really like the shape of this building. I don't want it to change, so we'll put them in there. And here. There we go. Interesting. So that made abandoned humans. The number of humans currently without any form of shelter due to your actions, they're now worse off than homeless class. So apparently now that we need to pay attention to what types of buildings we're taking over because it's causing abandoned humans. Abandoned humans are going to require a home. So if we switch to this home field, I think we need a refugee tower to house abandoned humans. This will house 12,000, so might as well start that soon in order to keep them pacified. And as always, like, getting the buildings to snap is a little bit of a challenge, but not too bad. Okay, what else is it suggesting? Well, regardless of what it's suggesting, we're going to make a contraband jammer. Eventually, I suppose. We're going to make all of what it's suggesting. Repair spiders. Yep, everything here we need. It's going to require a lot of electricity. And it's going to require more androids to help with. What about power? We could also make that geothermal power thing. Do we still know how to make that? Navigating all of these building menus with all of the buildings being suggested at once is going to be new. We do want a storage bunker. Vast amount of additional storage for most resources. I assume that's because we're so flush with slurry and micro builders. Computronium will be necessary to make computronium cubes. What we need those for, I don't remember. But yeah, we gotta get started. Okay. The world at large, so a lot has changed in this build. This is build 15. From what I understand is there's a complete rework of how background conflicts work, so we're gonna be interested in seeing that. Obviously the prologue was reworked. We already saw that in the last episode. I don't know, we're going to, I guess, advance to turn 16. Before we start blasting through turns, though, I want to think about the future a bit. So turn 16, in a new timeline, I believe we have normally 400 turns. Yeah, interesting. We've never completed chapter 3. Timeline goals and dooms. Okay, so it doesn't let us see dooms, but every 100 turns is normally how often the doom strikes. I think since we're on hard mode, that's going to be every 75 turns. So we're already 16 turns in. That means we have 59 turns left before the first doom strikes. So we're going to have to make sure we get out ahead. These wind generators, they're going to take 6 turns to build, so even with help from an android, that's still going to be at least 2 turns to bring one online. We're really low on surplus electricity. It does look like we start using electricity as soon as we place these buildings, whether they're completed or not. I do think we're going to go to turn 17 before building anything else. The goal right now is to make some neuroweave so that we can start making more androids. This building is going to be making 250 per turn. We definitely want more neuroweave factories. But before we can get that underway, we need these large wind generators to come up. So let's get at least one of these fully built before we worry about too much. I suppose it doesn't really matter. As long as one of those comes online, we'll probably be okay. It's probably okay to start dropping the suggested buildings. Contraband jammer seems like a logical first step. Looking where we're going to place that, I think probably bias it up this way a little bit, just because there's empty space here to build like our freestanding buildings once we're out of this stealth mode. But I think we're going to be using existing buildings for a lot, so yeah, let's bias it this direction, maybe right about there. Make sure it's in our network as much as possible. Put a contraband jammer down, that will get built eventually. Take up another 10% of our electricity. We'll want scroungers. We'll want 3 more neuroweave factories. Yep. We'll want repair spiders. Let's get those neuroweave factories online. How much electricity are these generators going to give us? Generator doesn't say. Does it say in here? 45,000. Okay, so that's one of those is going to be plenty. Although we're making 2, so we'll have an excess of electricity soon. Biomulchers will be necessary for like our food chains. Skimmers will be necessary for just generating income, mineral income. We'll have to figure out how to make the factory flags. Again, we'll need a stealth. We'll need an aerospace hangar to produce air vehicles. Storage bunker. I suppose we might as well make one. The motivators, yeah, if we need more robotics, we'll make those. We don't need those yet. Repair spiders we'll need soon in order to repair things. Well, and cistern for water. Warehouse. We can start thinking about warehouses to make furniture and daily necessities. Once we start building things, TPS report is already worried about spiders. Losses due to electrical shortage. Okay, well we have millions, so not too worried about that. How are we looking on... Yeah, still 0 for neuroweave, so we're going to have to get the neuroweave up and running. Let's focus on that. We'll need more neuroweave factories. In fact, it says we should make 4, so let's get 4 going. I've got 1 already. These buildings have always been stealth, so they'll live there. I'm not sure anything else is critical until we get those online. Maybe worth starting the Computronium factory now, although I fail to remember exactly what this is for, except that it's obviously for the next step after that is to actually make some kind of computing to use those. Probably this, yes, here we go. So once we have Computronium, we can then start making tower mainframes, which will give us compute time. Yeah, so we definitely want to start with Computronium as soon as possible. This is a Computronium refinery. We'll throw that down over here. Most of these buildings don't really use any of the things we'd get from scroungers. But I think that's enough for now. Let's concentrate on getting the neuroweave up and start building up our drones. Storage bunker and large wind generators. Yeah, so let's make the storage bunker just to progress the project. And then we'll look at... Okay, stealth storage bunker requires a building. Yep. Luckily we have a lot of buildings here. We're going to be displacing people. Or not. Not sure how the displacement works. Maybe that was when we were breaking the buildings with the biomulcher placements, or sorry, the slurry spider placements. I will try to keep a better eye on that. That was one storage. Could use another one of these buildings here for storage, I guess. Boy, you'd think it wouldn't be that hard of a decision, but there we go, like just figuring out where you're going to put these buildings takes a little bit of foresight, I think. Okay, we're still gonna keep to our ethical timeline for now, just so like we can get the murder-free bonuses on this timeline. But there may be a future timeline where we just snap and decide that it's time to kill all humans. It's not going to be this one, though. We need 2 of those storage bunkers. I did put down 2, yes, and we got 2 wind generators. Let's go to turn 18. That gives our android some more construction. So we're going to bring up a wind generator. That gives us enough power that we don't need to worry about bringing this one up. We're going to worry about the Neuroweave factories next. So that's these things. And don't think we yet have enough. We're up to 25 Neuroweave. We do have enough power next turn that we should be making more. Let's use our mental energy to battle recharge you and bring up these other Neuroweave factories. Alright, that's as much as we could do. With the excess power, that makes me much less nervous about building more buildings. So I think the next one should probably be the aerospace hangar. We'll put that, we want one of those near our tower so that we can deploy vehicles here as needed. We're also going to drop 1 repair spider here just to keep our whole central area maintained. And looking at this from above just to get a good central spot for that. Robotic motivators are for bulk android cap. I think we actually start with no cap of those. Yeah, so we'll have to make those at all to get any, it looks like. Biomulchers, we might as well start collecting biomulch as soon as possible. There's no real reason to delay that. And they're tiny. A drone factory would not be a bad idea. That's we're starting to run into micro builder limits already, so I mean, we're not running into limits, but we're burning that down fast. Micro builders are probably the next thing to make sure that we have an understanding of. So let's check a look at the Microforge robotics one more time. I guess we did turn these on already. So these are building 600 per turn. So eventually we're going to be limited to 1,800 micro builders a turn. So that's going to be our build capacity for a while, although we do start with a nice excess. So once we build up, though, we're going to be greatly limited. Drone factories are going to be important. That's pretty cheap. Mineral scroungers, sorry. We could build these in a mining district. I parked us next to a mining district just to make this possible. So yeah, right here we can already start these. These are pretty cheap, right? Mineral scroungers, they take a lot of electricity. We're already consuming about half, but we do have another windmill coming. Mineral scroungers take 2,000 electricity and yield a tiny bit of minerals per turn. Looks like the main mineral we're missing is bastnasite, which we'll need bauxite skimmers for. Bauxite skimmers, once we do get into these, we'll need deterrents. Mineral scroungers don't need deterrents though, so but I don't think they'll necessarily give us any bastnasite. They'll give us the other things. Let's go ahead and put those down because starting to gather sooner is better. Do we have a navigation? Yeah, so this site over here is Fort Soto military base. That's our neighbor to the west. To the south we have mining site 705. We have another mining site 735 over here, and we have a farm up in this area, Costa Acres, all and a whole even more mining sites. So plenty of mining for us to scrounge steel materials from. We will insert these here. we did start an aerospace hangar. It is suggesting 2. I think 1 will probably be fine. We'll see. Tower mainframes, we're shooting for the water. We don't need until we're starting to house people. Same with these daily necessities and furniture. So our next bet is going to be moving on to turn 19, and then we're going to try to bring up some more androids. Ah, there's a little farm tract right here as well. Turn 19. Okay, that was our income. Minus 502 seems to be a stealth measure. Yeah, so they're losing some of their hiddenness every turn. Scan resistance 400, so I think once this contraband scanner is online, we might be able to see something change there. 2 turns left for that. Let's have you bring up the other power. Okay, so our power woes are gone. We no longer have any problems in TPS reports. We're making plenty of slurry, almost 10,000 slurry a turn, that's plenty. 1,800 microbuilders a turn, that's quite low, but hopefully it'll be enough to get us bootstrapped. What about making androids? 1,500, it's gonna, looks like another turn and we'll have enough to make another android. For now we don't, but we can spend some mental energy on you. I think once we have a second android, we're going to be sending it out to do some of these basic missions. Geothermal power would be very nice, although that is in a military base. I'm not sure how that works. Slumcats. Oh, the other thing we should check on androids is whether or not we know how to make stuff. Yeah, so it looks like our inventions carry over because we do have ultralight plating to put on our android right now. For some reason he's marked defective. We can fix that. No, we can't give them a refreshed identity. We know how, but that's going to take liquid gallium, which is a resource we don't know how to make yet. We'll figure that out. But once we have, we'll just be able to make fresh identities without killing other androids. For now, he is marked defective, so we have to kind of keep this guy in our territory. He also has knowledge of the box, which is interesting. I think we used the box, so I'm not sure why we get that badge. And he's got a taser. Very basic. I suppose we might as well send you off to do this pollinator's contemplation because it's so close. Diversity in pollinators has dropped dramatically since the Third World War. The bees that remain are particularly vicious. You're really not sure why this is important, but the thought nags at you. Yeah, that'll lead us to weaponized bees, which probably doesn't carry over. I'm not sure. Street sense is also something we can look at. We can just murder people in cold blood if we want. We can go help people put out their fires. We can help the Lost Gen with their water theft already. And we can try visiting licensing agencies to turn off or to reset our identity. We don't need to do any of that immediately. You know what we should do is make sure our refugee tower is up and running so that we can get these abandoned humans sheltered. I suppose that'll start our need for water, etc. Okay, next turn that should start filling up with abandoned humans. Let's get this Computronium online sooner. And then storage bunkers can wait. That's the only thing we're waiting for. Everything else is built. We might as well start getting the aerospace hangar up and running as well. There we go. Next turn we should be able to make a second android. Let's go to turn 20. Moving back to contemplation so these distracting icons don't show up. Aerospace hangar, 2 turns. Can we make another android? We can. Let's make a second technician. This will take 1 mental energy and use up all of our neuroweave. We can drop him here to the pollinator's contemplation. Or I thought we would, but I missed. Pollinator's contemplation spot. Why can't you do this? It's one of those things where if you start on it, you can't do it. So we're going to have to move him out of there, I think. Or maybe I just can't select him. That's what's happening. There we go. A woman is examining the same aggressive pollinators. A ping from her implant tells you she's a member of the nurturism religion. Officially, religions have been banned in Vorsaber territory, but still flourish among the humans who have spread to the stars. In reality, religions are still practiced here without reprisal, so long as no one makes a big fuss about it. We can ask her about the bees. I think this means we've done that in one other timeline. Or we could ignore her and examine the bees. Whoever she is, you'll never see her again. I mean, I don't think there's any benefit to ignore. I can't imagine a benefit to ignoring her. And I think talking to her unlocked some sort of religious thing. I don't remember. Let's go ask her about the bees, even though we've done this before. She cocks her head and directly addresses the fact that you're sentient. She asks why you're out here looking at bees, but you barely hear that part. Cautiously inquire as to her stance on your existence. It would really stink to have to kill her. She seems nice. She ignores the question. She's more interested in the possibility that you might be willing to advance research into gene therapy. She asks you to think about it and forwards you a package of initial data to see if it interests you. She says you can talk later after you've experimented with those materials. We accepted the data packet. I think that is going to lead to a religious thing that we ignored last time. That's why I'm still going down that way. We'll see. Maybe we'll get more into the cult side of things. We might as well send you over here to finish construction on these storage bunkers. And the aerospace hangar. And then let's use one more point to move that one forward. We're pretty much out of neuroweave. It's interesting that we have all designs that we know of unlocked. Not quite sure which ones to go for first, honestly. I do not remember ever being able to make a tailstock before. An agile mech that supports allied combatants by tying up enemy forces. Quite expensive. Nothing obviously new in bulk reagents. Those all seem good, and we can't make a shell company yet. We're gonna have to figure out how to make a shell company again. One more storage bunker to finish. I'm going to advance the turn to turn 21, and then I'm going to call that the end of the episode. Not really a lot happening in these initial episodes, just getting our bearings and figuring out where and what we're doing. But it's bound to turn exciting, especially considering we're on hard mode now. So I expect there to be some difficulties ahead. And I hope you'll join me for that. So stay tuned. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all the buttons. Click them all. And I hope to see you next time. This has been Corknut playing Heart of the Machine. Bye bye for now.